All right. So we've got the exciting webinar using AI in your legal practice. Uh, Welcome to everybody that's joining us this afternoon. With me today, my name is Roland Parker with Impress Computers, and joining us is Floyd Spencer, who's our implementer, and Mark Leeper from Hatz AI. Hatz AI has developed kind of like an AI platform that gives you access to multiple of the big LLMs, but in a safe, secure manner. So, Mark, do you want to do a brief introduction of yourself? And then Floyd, and uh, welcome to Michael as well from Hatz as well.
Yep. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Roland. This is it's great to be here. I think this is our second webinar that we've done together, and I help with the AI education and adoption at Hatz. So I work with a lot of small business leaders to help develop their use cases and make sure they find value in different AI tools on the Hatz platform. Hatz will talk more about the security side and sort of the rationale behind why we do what we do as we go through the presentation, but we can just say it's the secure AI platform that is meant to be the AI operating system for your business.
Great. And Floyd, do you want to give us a quick introduction, 30
Sure,
second?
sure. Yeah. Name is Floyd Spencer. I've been working with Roland and the Empress team for several years, and in this particular area, I'm working with them and other companies adopting AI in real operational ways and focusing on helping them do it safely, responsibly, and in a way that protects your business. And so that's my side of it. I've been working building AI agents for a little bit more than a year and a half or so, and when you learn a lot through this whole process. So here to assist in that.
And Michael, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I also work alongside Roland, Floyd, Mark as part of the team here. So looking to really just be a resource. We work with Roland and kind of help with the delivery of the Hatz AI platform and kind of just another point of contact for Roland to work with. So appreciate everyone being here.
Okay, well, let's jump straight into it. I think everybody's interested in how AI can improve the efficiency of their organization. But obviously, we've got to make sure we're going to do it in a safe and secure manner. And we're going to cover some of the pitfalls to look out for as you roll out AI within your practice. Take it away, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much. So since AI came out to public, public access a couple of years ago, the conversation around security has been really at the forefront for a lot of businesses. Like, yeah, it's cool. There's really fun things that you can do with it, but in my business, what is it doing with my data? How can I know that my data is safe? And the reality is that if a software is free, your data is the currency. So the purpose of Hatz AI is to curate the best in show AI models. So the household names, the Chat GPTs, the Claudes, the Grok, the Perplexities, everything that you might hear about, put them under one roof and let you access those because there are two major issues or two major risks that are posed to using free and open AI tools with business data, with confidential or sensitive or proprietary information. And especially as, as coming from law firms, which I understand many of you are, that's most of your data that you're working with is very confidential. So we work with our partners, like Impress to help mitigate those risks. And the first one is just data exposure, which is using free tools, lets AI companies train their future models on your data. There was a new model that came out this week and another one before that, and there's one coming out almost every couple of weeks at this point. The way that they're getting better is because they're looking at their user data, their customer data. How are they interacting with the AI, and how can they learn from that? What files are they giving it, and how are they interacting with them? And all of that information gets stored in what's called a training model. Um, when those new models come out, their knowledge, their information, their algorithms are based on that data. And there have been countless instances of businesses finding out that their data is now part of this public training model that puts all of this information out there for anyone to find. And Roland, I'm curious on the cybersecurity, the managed security side, what kind of threats does that pose to a business beyond just people can see my data?
So it's a huge risk, and obviously we spend a lot of time and effort securing people's networks, and then we discover that employees are uploading stuff and running it through the different versions of AI. And the problem with that is some of the information that they could be exposing could even be things like login information, um, financial information, all the stuff that we're trying to keep safe and secure now all of a sudden is made public out there. One of the risks that I have seen is that some companies have said, well, we're going to pay for AI for certain members of our staff, and the other guys, we're just going to rely on them that they're not going to put anything out there that would put us at risk. And the big danger to that is if you're not blocking those LLMs from running, you're putting everything into the hands of employees who inadvertently, or even if they know what they're doing, could be putting that information, exposing financial information, proprietary company information, your customers' information. And then that kind of leads into your next thing of the data transfer. Anything that those employees are putting in their own personal AIs, even if it's a paid version where there's maybe less risk, when that employee leaves, they're taking all of that information with them as they leave the company. And the chances are they're going to be working for a competitor, and everything that you've built up is now leaving with that employee.
Yeah. Part of the reason for that is most of the AI companies, the models that you might have employees paying for their own personal versions of, they retain a lot of that data. There are even instances where people thought that OpenAI wasn't keeping their data, but it turns out it was, and there's a whole rigmarole to get it to be deleted. And the analogy that I go back to sometimes is, at your company, your organization, you don't let everyone come to work with their own personal email accounts and use that for business. You don't let them use their Gmail, their Yahoo accounts, and then go home and use it for everything else they would use their email for. It's the very same with AI. It's becoming a standard technology at this point, and it's important for organizations to understand your employees want to use it, and more than likely they are using it with or without your knowledge or approval. And these are the two main risks associated with an unstandardized AI strategy, half strategy to, like Roland said, giving secure AI or paid AI to some people, but not to others, and not having a real AI policy for everyone to follow. And I know, in working with a lot of law firms, that sometimes you go all the way the other way, which is absolutely no AI, no one can use it, nothing goes into AI, nothing comes out. And, there's some problems with that too, just around efficiencies. And uh, it's, you can't just not use the standard technologies that are available and becoming more and more prevalent. We'll talk more about that too. But yeah, so these are the two main issues. Roland, I'm interested to kind of pick your brain and hear from you about, you know, the work that you're doing on the cybersecurity side and shoring up the all of the data and keeping servers safe and everything, and then people just completely sidestepping that and going around and handing off data uh, to competitors, to the public, to OpenAI for free, what is that, like, what red flags does that send up to you as a trusted advisor, as a managed service provider?
Yeah, it's a huge red flag, and that's where we really want to sit with Floyd and that company and make sure, we put up firewalls, we put in zero trust across the computers, we lock everything down so that the bad guys can't get in and information is not getting out. And then the one loophole is the fact that companies have started using AI, and unless they lock out the free AI from the employees being able to use it, then everything that we're doing is being put to risk as people start uploading stuff to AI and using their own AI. And we do have some questions in the chat. Some of them we're going to answer at the end of them, and some of them we might answer as we go along. One of the questions that did pop up is, one of the most important features of AI is that they get to know you and you store your memories. This even works across different chats. So how does Hatz AI do this? And if so, how does this work if a user switches from a different LLM into Hatz AI?
That's a great question. And there are probably multiple ways to answer this based on what systems you are using. One of the most common, and I'm going to answer, I think, in 2 or 3 different parts. If you're using ChatGPT and you have, let's say, custom GPT, several different custom GPTs built, you're using those different tools that OpenAI gives you. There are limitations to what OpenAI lets you do in terms of transferring to another platform. They don't really have an export button for those chats and those custom GPTs. But what we found is, because AI works in natural language, you can simply tell it that I need to pick up this conversation or this project in another AI. Can you create a prompt that I can give to another AI model to pick up where we left off? And it does a pretty good job. And we even, on Hatz, I'll show you this when we switch over to the platform side, we even have a tool called the Workshop Assistant that if you give it even just one sentence, or if you give it that whole prompt, maybe a system prompt that the OpenAI, custom GPT will spit out, it'll go and build that agent in our platform. So it can rebuild something based on the prompts that OpenAI spits out for you. We do not currently have what you'd consider to be traditional memory. That's intentional. So we focus primarily on secure chat, security, using AI in a way that does not expose anything you're doing to anyone else unless you want to share something with them. That includes storing your memories and learning across chats. Everything is an isolated chat. Workflows that we'll look at run in an isolated environment. Agents run in an isolated environment. We are building a version of memory at some point, but that's not the strategy right now that we're going with. However, as you'll see in the platform, the actual way that you use it isn't just the chat. There's a lot of benefit to the chat. I probably use it about 80% of the time when I'm in Hatz. But you can build things called apps and workflows and agents that don't need memory. They need just a good prompt so that you can share that across your organization and help with repetitive tasks. We're going to look at 5 or 6 examples of those repetitive tasks. And you can see how, if you write it the right way first, you can run it as many times as you want, and it only needs a few examples to get things right and do things the right way.
And Hatz has got a kind of crawl, walk, run approach, and you can start building up to where you doing your own agents. But that's also the type of thing where, if you need assistance with that, working with Impress and Floyd to let us help you start building out those agents so you become more familiar with it.
Yeah, exactly. Crawl, walk, run is huge. Uh, when we switch over to the platform, I'll show you, we have different sections of the platform that kind of align with that, like organically, crawl in the chat, walk in apps and workflows, and run with agents. All of that's made easier with that workshop assistant that I talked about. But um, starting with the basics is important when you're starting with any new platform.
Okay, well, let's jump in and start looking at some of the benefits.
All right. So just as a visual, I'm a visual guy. This is meant to show you a very stylized version of how Hatz keeps your data safe. Your organization might be using free or personal or unstandardized AI tools. That goes to the training data. The training data makes the AI, the next model, better. Your organization uses that. It's just a feedback loop giving basically free training to these AI companies. Where Hatz AI sits is it blocks off the training data. It sits between those AI models and their training data. There's a whole architecture of how that works. We're not going to probably get into that in this call within the purview of this, but we have lots and lots of documentation about how that works and why that works, and the SOC 2 reports and the constant penetration testing and all kinds of things that happen to make sure that data stays yours and it doesn't go to anyone else. So just visually, this is where we sit. We let you still use all of these tools, but it does not contribute to that training data. Yeah, so Roland, why adopt secure AI? I think you talked about the first part, preventing accidental data leakage across the organization, whether it's someone using their personal account or the company only providing secure chat to a portion of the organization. Another big part of it is standardizing AI tools across the company. We hinted at this earlier, where if you're using OneDrive or Google Drive, everyone's using that. You don't have some people using one tool for document storage and some people using another one. You might be using multiple, but you are standardizing what that is. Your
So
email,
everybody in the company has got one standard platform,
yeah,
just like we do in the traditional OneDrive, Google Drive, and whatever the company's using, that's what they're going to standardize on.
yeah,
And the same thing with AI.
exactly. Sometimes people think of AI as a completely separate technology, and it moves faster than a lot of legacy technologies, but it still is a technology to adopt as a business in the same way that you would adopt when you started using email as an organization, when you started using different document storage. It's the same concept here. Your CRM, imagine if you had 3 different CRMs running in your organization, it would be a mess. Your data would be all over the place. So AI is the very same. Then gaining efficiency across multiple models and tools. I know some people on this call even are using paid versions of ChatGPT, and that's great, right? I think as long as you're moving in that direction of securing AI and adopting it and experimenting with it, it's all positive, right? We don't want to shame anything for experimenting with it, but you're locked into those tools. You're locked into the OpenAI tools. If you're paying for ChatGPT, like ChatGPT Teams or projects, the enterprise versions, you're locked into the 16 models, and some of those have even been decommissioned, right? They've been deprecated and they're unavailable, or GPT like routes to the most available model. With Hatz, you get to pick which model, and it goes to that model every time. So you never get routed away from the smarter model into the quicker model without you knowing. Um, you also can switch from OpenAI to a Gemini model or to an Anthropic model or to an Amazon model, all in the same chat. You can branch chats and try different LLMs. You can start in one, finish in another. You can run a workflow that incorporates 6 or 7 different LLMs, all in one place, without having to go and get those subscriptions elsewhere.
And if anybody's using a particular software within the organization that has AI attached to it, you can put it in the chat and see how Hatz maybe complements what you're using already.
That's a great point. Yeah, we do integrate with about 40 different tools. We have 40 different integrations that you can use in the platform. We're always adding more. So whatever you're using, you might be able to talk to that data from Hatz or bring it in another way. Another thing on that point, Roland, is sometimes these built-in AI tools or third-party AI, AI for legal, platforms that are out there are really process specific, and that's great too. I don't more AI, raising the AI IQ in the room is always good, but if you're using a tool that does like 1 or 2 things, it's great for those 1 or 2 things. There's still a benefit to generative AI across the organization that allows you to ideate and develop your own use cases. And like we said at the beginning, kind of become that AI operating system, the home base, right? Base camp for AI for your company, with everything else kind of plugged into it. And then finally, professional development for your team. AI skills are becoming non-negotiable. As we were prepping for this, you had a really good point about the legal industry and some of the professional development happening there. If you want to reshare that, that was really, I had not thought about this, so you know.
Yeah, and I think what's happening at the moment, we're seeing a lot of like the paralegals that are adopting AI are becoming in demand. They are a lot more efficient. And sometimes people always have this fear that AI is going to replace humans. And I don't think that's ever going to be the case. Definitely some positions some companies may hold less of those people, but the people that, whether they're paralegal or lawyers, are who adopt AI, who are proficient in AI, are going to be the ones in demand because they're going to be so much more efficient and be able to do so much more that anybody that adopts AI, gets proficient in AI, is definitely going to be in demand.
Yeah. We always say, and this is kind of just the term the phrase that's been used in the AI space for a couple of years now is treat AI like an intern. It's not the manager of your organization. It's not replacing anyone on your team. It's giving the people on your team an infinite number of interns. There's no limit to the number of agents that you can build, or the number of workflows that you can run. The intern aspect helps to frame it to set you up for success, really, so that you understand that interns are capable of a lot, but you should always verify their work before it gets sent off to a client. Should always verify it before you argue it in a courtroom. We've seen that happen with AI generated cases and all kinds of stuff that's happened. So you should always vet it. Keep a human in the loop, and that leads us to the number one rule of AI is to keep a human in the loop, to not only verify that the information that's coming out is accurate and correct, but to make sure that it's at the standard of what your firm, your organization wants to put out there. And there are ways that you can continuously update those prompts and the way that the AI agents are built to maintain that level of efficiency and professionalism. And also, AI moves so quickly that by the time you build something, you'll get a few weeks, a few months out of it. But then there's going to be another development that might let you make that workflow or that agent even more powerful or more efficient or have access to even more information, do things more quickly. You can go back and revisit. So it's important, just like you have developed skills across other legacy technologies, whether that's just really good at internet research or using Excel or different CRMs. This is another one of those tools that if you as a human can get really good at it, you're going to be in demand. The people who are in demand are the ones who are going to replace you, not the AI. It's the people who are using AI to do your job better and more efficiently and more accurately. That's who, who you should be afraid of. So become one of those people, I think, is the takeaway from this.
Absolutely.
Um, I think that takes us to some of the use cases, but what I'm curious about is in the chat, if anyone wants to share how you're using AI today. Um, and like I said, there's no shame, right? You can, just because we're hats, it doesn't mean that we hate any other tools or anything. I'm all about AI education, and I think that the more that you use it, no matter what the platform is, the better it is for everyone because you get to see sort of the capabilities and limitations and the potential and everything about AI and where it is. So, would love to know how you're using it, some of the use cases, some of the tools.
Yeah, so if anybody just wants to just put in there how they're using it, what tools that they've found useful, um, or just general AI questions, how they would like to get more benefit from AI.
Yeah. And we can keep an eye on that, guys,
Sure.
as we move forward. But yeah.
And then do you want to jump into the platform and let's show people what it looks like?
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. And if this is your first time seeing any sort of generative AI interface, that's okay too. Um, we don't expect any AI knowledge to be brought to the table when you're using Hats. It's fairly intuitive, pretty self-guided here. We also have training in our learning portal if you're curious about how to get started, some prompt engineering basics, how to choose an LLM, all that good stuff, um, strategic adoption, all that can be found there. So just to give a quick tour of this before we jump into the use cases, the 50, we have 52 LLMs or AI models in the platform right now. You can search by category. So if you are seeing all kinds of AI image, AI art, image generation, all that stuff is available here. Reasoning, models that can really think through what you're asking them to do and create a plan and then start responding to you. So a little bit slower, but much better outcomes. That might be helpful in the legal sector. And tool use. So I mentioned that we integrate with different software. Those tools can be found here. Um, if you've heard of Perplexity, that's also available. It's not a traditional LLM in the same way that like OpenAI, has ChatGPT, but this is a tool that can be used by those LLMs to help with internet search and research. Firecrawl, ingesting tons and tons of pages of the internet. This Hatz Workshop Assistant, I'm going to come back to this and show you how powerful this can be. And then we have Python Code Interpreter. This is a phenomenal tool. You don't need to know how to write code or use Python or anything. In fact, it turns on automatically if you upload a spreadsheet with financials and data and all kinds of everything that you want it to analyze and interpret. It uses code. It doesn't rely on the AI to interpret it. So if you've heard that AI gets math wrong and AI can hallucinate and make up numbers and all of that, this actually writes a script to interpret that file and give you information that's accurate. Really good at file analysis. That's one of the use cases we're going to do. We integrate with these tools. So if you're using Salesforce or OneDrive is a really popular one. I know we have some Fireflies in the chat. So if you're listening, we integrate with Fireflies. So you can pull data in from these different sources. And like I said, we're always adding more. So you can pull data in, interact with it, manipulate it, and send it back out. The models also include the agents that we'll look at. And then when I mentioned the branch chatting, and Roland was talking about this, you can start in one model and then you can edit, switch to a different one, and branch it off somewhere else. So you can do immediate A/B testing of different models. So if you don't know where to start, you can pick one and then see the exact same prompt from another model, just right in the same
And
chat.
I think that's one of the big things. Like people go, well, I've got all these LLMs. Which one is going to be the best for this particular task?
Yeah.
And this is great where you can actually go, well, let me just play around with it and see which one gives me the best response.
That's exactly why we do that. And the reality is that the better these AI models are getting, the more and more it really comes down to personal preference. So I always say just pick one and start. And then exactly what you just said, try a different one and see if you like that better. Maybe you like the formatting a little bit better. Maybe you like the way it sounds or the tone before you get too deep into the weeds of prompting and giving it those guardrails and here's the examples of how I want you to talk. Maybe you just like the way that it looks, right? They all have their little quirks and nuances, but in terms of intelligence and reasoning and complexity of prompts that they can handle, they're all getting much, much better. And you OpenAI just released a new model 2 weeks ago, and then Google responded with their competitive model, and it really just depends on like on your personal preference for the most part. So the use case here, we have this whole workshop over here with legal use cases built in. I want to show you those, but I just want to start in the chat. Using one of these models, you can see this is it's an advanced model. It has tools. It's a reasoning model. This is like the newest model that's out there on the market. It came out yesterday. It came out on Tuesday. So what you can use just in the chat, like I said, I spend about 80% of my time when I'm in Hatz, I'm in the chat. I still use workflows and agents and all of that advanced stuff. I'm in here most of the time. This is great for brainstorming, for thinking through different processes. I'm working on just like totally in the name of transparency here. I wanted help outlining something, new course that I'm working on, and I gave it this prompt and I gave it all of this, the modules that I wanted it to include, and I wanted it to help me outline it and organize my thoughts, and it was able to do that. This is something that would have taken me a long time to do, and I'm still not going to just go and click record and start recording this new course with everything that AI gave me. But it helped me think through, oh, I might not have thought about, sorry, sorry, I don't know where everything went. I'm so sorry about that. Am I still
And
sharing this here?
yes, I
Okay.
think that's the one important thing. If you're just typing something in and you're not getting a good response, it's because you're also not giving it enough information.
Yeah. Yeah, you might not be giving it enough information to necessarily know what you want it to do, which is why one of the things that we say is just ask AI how to use AI. It will give you a really good framework. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to do here was just show you, let's say for the sake of this, that you want to use AI for web search, for researching different topics. Maybe there's, a case that came across your desk and you need to find different, some information you need to find out. Maybe not like legal information. I have an agent built specifically for that, but information about a certain area or a certain industry or a company, that kind of research. You can turn on these models that all say web search, right? Web crawling, um, research, web search. You can turn these on. And instead of going and like having to read the documentation and look up those platforms and how to work those, you can just say, tell me what they mean. It doesn't even have to be that specific. I added, by creating a table. That's part of prompt engineering. Tell it what kind of output format you want, and it'll abide by the guardrails that you're setting up. Um, this is a reasoning model, so it does, like I said, it takes a second to think before it goes and response, but it'll create this fun little table for you, gives you the description and kind of helps you understand what it's doing. And then you can even ask, how can I use these in my law firm to help with research? Ask AI how to use AI. We can take this step after step after step. After this, we could even say, great, create an agent that does exactly this and turn on that Hatz Workshop Assistant. It'll go build an agent for me. So here we go. So it's literally using those tool calls. And you don't need to know any of those terms to get started, but this just goes to show you don't need to have a lot of understanding to build something like this.
So one of the questions that did pop up was if somebody is actually doing confidential information within Excel, how are they going to be guaranteed that if they're using an AI platform, that it is going to be secured?
That's a great question. So you said if they're using AI in Excel.
So if they use Excel and then they use AI to analyze that Excel, but they're uploading an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. We have our SOC 2 Type 2 certification. You can read that. We have also an app in here that helps to interpret it on the legal side, what it means, and you can ask questions about it. Is my data safe? In our privacy policy, we also talk about data ownership and data transfer and everything, and how you retain ownership of your data. It's not used for any training models. The actual architecture of it, just at a really a quick answer, is when you're using the Hatz platform, the AI models that we're using are hosted on our AWS or our Google Cloud provider, GCP, servers in Virginia and Ohio. So they are right? Like we manage those at the access to those servers. There's no other like third party coming in to use those in the same way that if you're using Excel in the cloud, that's somewhere in a server, right? You can find out where they're keeping your data and who has access to that. It's the very same kind of policy. So when you're using those AI tools, they're in your specific tenant, your specific environment. I can't go in and see them. Even your chats, people in your own organization can't go in and see how you're chatting with the AI. It's all segmented on those servers. So I just kind of at a high level, that's how you do that. But to go further, if you're using the Excel integration, for example, if I were to turn on Excel here, or OneDrive and Fireflies and Excel, um, the AI is not able to do anything that I couldn't as a human, and it's also not able to see anything that I couldn't see as a human. So if I turn on OneDrive and I ask it to find, um, our CEO's salary, our comp and benefits package, and all the documents and the contracts and his bank statements and everything, it's not going to do that because I don't have access to that in my OneDrive. It can only follow the path that I could click into. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got access to it, then it can use it. But if you don't, just like any secure platform, you're not going to be able to see that information, and other people can't see what you've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great. So that's just sort of the first use case here. If we're talking about crawl, walk, run, crawling would just be using this chat interface as a way to get familiar with these LLMs, a way to brainstorm, think through. You can upload different documents and have it analyze them and summarize them. And you can also, at the end of it, if you want to, you can just delete the chat just to be sure that that wipes it out. That way it's not even in your environment anymore. You can delete everything out. The next use case that I would want to talk about is probably over here in the workshop. And we have this whole Discover community page. There's lots here. You can filter by different kinds of uh, items or templates that you might be searching for. The templates also are separated by category. So if we click into legal, there it is. There's 16 legal templates here. Some of these were built by Hatz. Some of these were built by people at other law firms who've wanted to share their workflows with the community. Everything that you build doesn't automatically end up in the community. You have to opt in, very clearly opt into that. But these are available if you want to take it, right? You can save one of these items to your own company and then edit it and tweak it to fit your needs. So we can do that. These are the use cases that I wanted to share. The legal research assistant is pretty fun. If we go over here to my items, there's two ways to actually interact with this. One is just in the chat, just like if you were choosing an AI model, you can choose one of these agents. You can see if you're over here in agents, I have like 15 of them that I can choose from. But the other way is just like I said in the workshop over here. So legal research assistant. You don't have to read this whole thing, but you can see how easy it is to, all of this is natural language. There's no coding. So it's easy to just write this or use AI to help you write it. And then it has access to some of those web search tools, and it's using Gemini 3 Pro. So this is a specialized assistant for legal research that prioritizes official government databases, primary case law sources that are free to use, and reputable legal analysis. So I can ask it any kind of question. Let's go over here. Kind of questions could I ask you? So while that's thinking, what you can do at your firm is if you look in here, you see that there are certain websites that it prioritizes. But if you know that there are going to be some websites that your firm goes to a lot, you can swap those in here. So you can just give it a list of like the top 20 sources that you would review, and it'll prioritize those in its web search. So here we go. Designed to help lawyers and paralegals find and cite legal authorities. Now, Roland, I know you had a question about citing sources and hallucinations.
And obviously, there's been stories in the news of lawyers who've gone up and found out that they were citing cases that didn't exist. So I think what's important is how do lawyers, paralegals make sure that they are citing cases that do exist and they're legitimate?
That's a terrific question. And I think it applies to more than just lawyers. Anyone who's using AI, whether it's like literally if you're in a law firm, it could be for a legal research purpose like this, or it could just be general purpose. If you're uploading a document and let's say it's we'll talk about this in a second, but it's like your company policies, your internal company policies. People start asking, what's our PTO policy? And it says, oh, you don't need to tell anyone that you're taking PTO. Just take the day off and enjoy yourself. How do you know? You want to make sure that it's actually citing the right information. So there's a certain level of trust, and we're in like a big zero trust industry. There is a certain level of trust that the AI is prompted to be accurate, but it's also prompted to help you, and those two things are often in conflict. The newer models have much, much, much lower hallucination rates, and hallucinations are just what we call the AI getting it wrong. Sometimes it makes up a number if it can't find it in the data, or it ran out of uh, power, it ran out of time to search for something or whatever. It just might make up a number to make you happy because that's what it wants to do. It wants to be a helpful bot. It might also make up a case to tell you what you want to hear. That you've got a really strong argument in court. Here's this case that it found. Didn't really find that case. It just made it up to sound smart for you. What you can do is prompt the AI, that system prompt that I showed you. The system prompt just means like the prompts are what you're giving it over here. System prompt on the other side is just the engine that's running it. So you don't have to keep editing this prompt. You don't have to keep giving it this prompt every time. It tells it how to behave, what its core principles are, how its output should look, all that fun stuff. You can put something down here that just kind of at the end says, always cite your sources in this format, and then you can give it the format that you want. That way, treating it like an intern, you always have a bibliography. You always got your work cited. You always have, after everything that it tells you, here's where I found it. And you can verify that. That's that human in the loop step. You're always going to need to go back to, can a human do this? Would you trust sending all of this information out to a client or to a judge or to, a municipality or whatever you're doing? If an intern just created it and said, trust me, it's right, you're still going to want to verify and vet all of the information. So there's a level of trust or mistrust that you need to have, and finding that balance, and also making sure your system prompt is written in a way that gives you those sources so that you can just, quickly check them. That actually reminds me something that I wanted to show you on the workshop side. If we go back to these templates, if you're at a law firm, legal is probably where you're going to gravitate toward. But certainly you also have a degree of finance that happens, right? You certainly also have operations, some general business cases. Sometimes people, when they start thinking about AI in their organization, they think about industry vertical use cases. But the reality is you have a degree of, general business operations at any business. You might not have retail or insurance or construction, but some HR, some finance, some marketing, some operations. So there's not just legal use cases here. And one of those that I want to show you, if we go back to this, is in the HR category. We have these, people are always adding new ones, so it's great. HR questions, really, really basic one, or even just HR specialist. I'll save this one and then view it. So you can create an internal company knowledge bot. It can either be an app like this that's just really basic, couple of prompts. You can upload a file with your company policies, your HR policies, your internal knowledge, all of that. You can upload that here, and then people can interact with it just like this. They can ask questions. How do we handle questions from this client? What's the what's the best practice for handling this kind of a call? And anything that you want to put in here, they can kind of query that and get those answers. Or you can use the agent. Go back to these agents. I'll open up this one because we didn't look at it yet. You can turn on an agent that has access to, your OneDrive or Salesforce or what, your CRM, your data sources, things that it can pull that information in from and help answer questions that users might have. So it can be kind of become that central single source of truth, one center for answering questions about your organization.
And especially as the organization starts to grow, HR becomes such a big thing that, and you may not have the resources to respond to everything that's going on. So starting to put something like this into place is definitely going to be beneficial for employees getting a quick response and HR not getting bogged down with endless questions that can be answered simply and quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the back and forth, all the emails back and forth and Teams chats and everything, Slack messages, whatever it might be, for basic questions that maybe you're a little bit hard to find, granted in some of those policies, but you turn on OneDrive and say, hey, can you help me find the document about this? And it's going to use AI to go and write the prompts and go find that. Um, I just wanted to also share this example. This is an agent that was also built for a law firm. It's a litigation data analyst. Um, Probably kind of a fancy way of saying it looks at spreadsheets and helps you understand them and create new ones. So it analyzes like legal data sets or billing hours, settlement amounts, case logs, anything that's in a spreadsheet format or a long case history format. It can ingest all of that information, create something new. Um, Pretty straightforward, but you can upload things here. It'll go and use um, the Python code interpreter, Excel. You can even turn on OneDrive. And Excel is read and write. So you can give it access to an Excel workbook and it can update the range. It can create charts. It can, manipulate the data, change the formulas, whatever you tell it to do. And again, it's using code. It's not just relying on the AI to be that smart. Um, One more use case that I know we're kind of coming up on time, Roland. So if there's anything you want to interject with here, please do as I'm pulling this up. There's one more that I wanted to share. If we go to, so if we go to the Discover page, I'm just going to search the document processing. I might not have shared it actually. There is a workflow that you can create that this is the example. Can you see this kind of?
It's a little bit small.
Okay. Um, Zoom in here. This is just a really, really basic version of this. But if you, as a firm, if you're creating the same kinds of documents over and over again, um, AI can help to create those documents for you. It can create Word documents, PDFs, fillable with fillable sections, just affidavits, NDAs, estate planning, anything that you might be creating over and over again, contracts, billable hour reports. So if you go over here, it might be I need to do some research, research, and then we'll put in the topic that we want to research, save that. And then we're going to add a new step, a document processing step. If I upload that file, if I upload it over here, document processing example, it's going to read that document and then I can do find and replace or append to template. So you can add stuff to the end of it and it'll create a new version of that document, keeping your letterhead, keeping your boilerplate, keeping everything. Or you can do find and replace. So the example here, fill generated content here. Well, if I take that and I go back here, it's going to look for the part of the document that says fill generated content here. And I can actually put in the output from here. So when I'm using this, I can just tell the AI to go and research a certain topic. It's going to use those tools, go research that, create the answers, and then send it down this little connector and stick it right in here. So you're going to have a whole research report there. It'll generate a new file. You click it, keeps the header, keeps everything. And you can get really creative with that with all of the different sections, billable hours. It's pulling from, your CRM and your emails and like looking at all kinds of things and creating a report. Um, it genuinely helps with a lot of the repetitive uh, nature of some of these use cases.
And keeping things standardized.
Absolutely, keeping things standardized because that it goes back to that prompting. If you find a use case that works, which goes back to the question that someone asked at the beginning. If you find a use case that works, it's not necessarily about the memory in Hatz. Uh, it's about these repeatable templates that you can share across your organization so that everyone can benefit from them or get inspired by it. And someone in someone on one team might say, oh, this is cool, but I would want to use it a little bit differently. So they're going to update some of those prompts and repetitively use that, standardizing the way that they're using AI. Any other questions that I missed? It doesn't look like it.
No, I think we've answered most of the questions. So, Floyd, from your side, building out agents and that type of thing, how have you found that being beneficial in the work that you've done in AI so far?
Well, the workflow, I like that Mark was showing, and the stuff that I've done is actually building agents just from scratch. But the whole point of any of that is thinking about those kind of things that you are doing over and over again. So people are saying, well, how do you save time? Well, you save time by identifying those things that are taking up all your time and creating an agent, or like Mark showed, a workflow in this case that just does exactly that thing. And if what you're spending all your time is pulling in a header, and then you create a workflow in this case, because that's simple. But think about something more complicated where you're wanting to reorder information from a spreadsheet into some sort of standard output, right? You could create an agent that does that. You can create an agent that goes and gets information and processes it and produces information. So one of the agents that I built early on was, it takes a job description, and it takes a resume that you have, and it creates a resume from scratch that is designed to pass the ATS system, which is where your resume goes when you apply for a job. It's designed to get that to 92%, assuming that your resume is good enough to do that, right? You don't want to spend 2 hours doing that. 5 minutes with the right agent, you've done that. So think of the same thing, right? Think about in your company, all those kind of things that you would like to have done automatically. And it does take some thinking. That's one of the things that Impress offers, and one of the things that I would offer with you guys is just this idea. Let's talk through what these kind of things are. Let's figure out what we can do to save time, and then we'll figure out whether workflow makes the best the solution, or if it's an agent that makes the best solution, or whatever. So anyway, this is an example of how I did it with applications and resumes.
I think the whole thing is, as you start rolling things out and implementing AI throughout your organization, first of all, start off, ensure you're developing everything on a safe, secure platform. And then you've got to get all of your employees trained so that they all become more efficient. And then you're doing it on a standard platform that everybody has access to. And then you've just got to start using it, because until you start using it, sometimes you don't even realize how beneficial it is until you start using it. And the more you use it, the more you'll want to go, wow, I can use it for different things. And sometimes when you're stuck on ideas, you can even ask AI, how can I use AI to benefit me? So Michael, is your experience, is there anything that you want to kind of add in the last few minutes?
No, I mean, Mark is extremely thorough. I learned a lot from him. So, I mean, essentially everything you've said, Roland, is important. I mean, it's being used. A lot of people that are afraid to use it don't use it because of the non-secure area. So, I mean, we addressed that issue. I mean, there's nothing that you can't do in Hats than you can do in other LLMs for the most part. So, I mean, it's just a really great tool for a lot of different reasons. The variety, the workshop, the fact that we add new LLMs almost every week too. That's, I think, is important. Like, and when you and I first started talking a couple months ago, there was like 40 somewhat LLMs in there. Today, there's 52. Gemini 3 Pro got added 2 days ago. GPT 5.1 got added last week. So another big portion of that is why Hats is great is, like, there'll probably be Claude 5.0 next week, and like trying to keep on touch with what these things can do. Some of them are better at other things that the older models are not good at. So being stuck with one model a lot of times causes people to have AI sprawl where they're having all these different kind of subscriptions and they're trying to, I heard Gemini 3 Pro can do this and ChatGPT 5.1 can do this. And then it's just like the costs get out of control, where a lot of times it's a more economical investment to just go with Hatz, and you guys help with the management and it's all secure, and we have great people to support it. So no, great session, and appreciate the ability to be a part of it.
Well, Mark, Floyd, and Michael, thanks a lot, and thanks for everybody for joining us. It's been a great session. We will be sending out a recording of this, and if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to follow up with us. And everybody who attended today will get an option of getting a free month to trial out the Hatz AI. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to chatting next month. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Roland. Thanks, Floyd.